So you've got a great idea for a children's story and you want to get it out into the world. But where do you start? Hello people, I hope you're all keeping well. My name is Ben Andrews and I'm debut author of upcoming series of children's picture books, Better Places, to help children think about how places can be made better for disabled people and set for release later this year. Over the last few months I've been sharing what inspired me to write the books, and I also thought it'd be useful to share a bit about my process of moving from inspiration to publication, which is where I'm at now. Shout out to Tiny Tree. And I wanted to kick that off with how to get your story started. And before we get started, I would like to say I'm not some kind of literary expert. I don't have any qualifications above GCSE level to do with English or writing, and I'm not a best-selling author just yet. But hopefully this video will speak to people out there who are coming from a similar level of experience than myself, who have got an idea, are wondering how to get started, and if me sharing a bit about my experiences will help you do that, then that'll do me. So with that being said, let's get into it. First up, every story needs a purpose. What message are you trying to put out there, and what's the point of your book existing? This could be anything from wanting to evoke emotion, wanting to make people laugh, wanting to make people cry, wanting to create the next best horror or adventure series, or, as with me, raise awareness of a particular issue. And this usually comes from your own unique experience, insight, or interest. Whatever it might be, once you have this sussed, it'll pretty much direct and inform all of your writing. It'll make the writing process much easier, and it'll give you something to refer back to get you through those inevitable hard times in writing when you need to just push on and progress with the story. Next up for me was character development. Now, characters are important. They are the vessels that will carry your story along, and they're the things that people are most likely to relate to, identify with, and remember from your story. So it's important to put the time in to get them right. And you can develop characters in all sorts of different ways. They might be based on people you know, people you've read about or watched on TV, or they could be completely made up. In my case, initially, it was the way the characters looked that informed their development. So I got a pad, a pen, doodled the characters out, and then once I had a really rough draft, I'm not much of a drawer, I was able to explore their personalities, how they interacted with others in the text, how they interacted with others in the story, and what their purpose and role was within the story itself. Then it was about adding some kind of resistance or opposition. Now, every good story has some kind of resistance or antagonist working against the main characters or the route you're trying to take the story. Without this, it'd just be a cakewalk right to the end, which might make for an easy write, but not a particular interesting read. This resistance could be another character, a collective of characters, a whole world or universe if you wanted it to be, or it could be something more subtle like an underlying theme, or just a knowing that something is working against your main characters or storyline. Whatever you go with, it'll add that drama and intensity to keep the reader engaged, make it a more interesting read, and likely a more interesting write. So you've got your purpose, you've got your characters, and you've now added some kind of opposition or resistance, and now it's about pulling it all together into some kind of coherent story. And one way you're doing that is by storyboarding. And storyboarding is basically just a make-up of different scenes and sequences to enable a story to move along and be told in a structured way. Now, your storyboard could have whatever you want within it, but they do tend to follow the same structure of a start, a middle, and an end. The start should be an introduction to the characters, what their purpose is, then the middle where they interact with the resistance and opposition, hopefully overcome it to move towards that happy ending that all readers crave for, or at least some kind of closure. Whatever you put in between is up to you, but as long as you have these components, the story should come together. But not unless you do the final, most obvious, but also most important point of actually starting to write. A lot of people do have really good ideas for a story and want to write it, but if you're really serious about it, you do need to get it down on paper or some kind of alternative format. And this is really important because it makes it real and gives you something to refer back to and work on. It's a starting point. And once you've started writing, I would recommend having specific times for writing so you can progress the text as much as possible. Sometimes it won't feel like you're making much progress, but as long as you're consistent with it, you will. And for me, it was the morning, so I'd wake up a bit earlier when my mind was more active and more creative, and that's when I get to writing. I'd also switch up where I wrote, so sometimes I'd do it in the office, on my laptop, sometimes I'd be downstairs and I'd be typing on my notes app, and other times I might be on the back table with a pad and pen, and that just helped keep the environments fresh, help keep it creative. And I'd also just come away from it completely sometimes and give my brain a bit of a break and then come back to it in a few hours or a few days, and that was really useful in trying to get over that writer's block or writer's wall, and progress and push through and finish the text. And then if you do that, you will eventually get to a finished text. And I'd also urge people at this point, as nice as it feels, don't become too possessive or too precious over this text, as attached to it as you can feel, because it will likely change drastically over the next few stages. And the next one I'm going to touch on is refining the text. So if that would be of interest and use to you, then please do stick with me. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please do follow, subscribe, like, share and comment below. I'd love to hear from you if you've got any tips for writing, anything that works particularly well, and anything you'd steer clear of. And on that, I hope you all keep well, keep safe, and until next time, take care.